Hello everyone, welcome to the last instructions for the last major assignment, which is the Literature and Film Studies essay. This is a full 5-page essay, and again, following all the proper formats. This one, as I mentioned in the syllabus recording and class overview, this one as well as the final exam have strict due dates. This strict due date is Sunday, June 23rd at 11:59, which again gives me time to quickly grade and hand in grades, final grades, within about 3 days. So this one, again, since it is longer, you'll still get full commons, but it does take a little bit to grade. So the genre here is analytical close reading and research driven. So this is going to be a combination of the first essay and second essay in terms of basing arguments off of research as well as basing arguments off of the literature and film. So this is the major objective basically for the WE requirement, right? Having some kind of like basically conference style paper given by, in our case, literature scholars, but given by academics in general. The topic is completely open except for this part. One aspect of literary or film studies you have to discuss. One aspect of it could be characterization, it could be theme, it could be adaptation studies, or whatever, right? It could be mise en scène, it could be the rule of thirds, right? Whatever you want, right? And then you have to choose one reading and film from our course. So you could discuss numerous others, but you have to at least include one paragraph on a literature from the course, one paragraph on the film from our course. Now, while you can approach this essay numerous ways, I'll give you a few kind of methods for this type of writing. So one is adding to the critical debate concerning a work's interpretation, right? Arguing why your interpretation was more accurate than past ones or current ones, right? So if you're very interested in like all the adaptations of, let's say, Most Dangerous Game that we didn't get to, as I listed, there are numerous ones. There's so many out there. You know, you could do that and you could interpret that stuff, and especially if people aren't talking about certain film adaptations, so I do that, right? There's so many different ways you could add your interpretation to what's happening now. Another element, a very popular one, is thinking about teaching, right? Of course, as I mentioned, this class in a way is kind of considered an outdated model because it's focused on analysis of literature and its film adaptation pairing, right? Should that happen? Should we teach in the reverse, where we watch the film first? Should we watch just or read one work and watch numerous interpretations, right? And so there's all sorts of ways that you could kind of teach this class. So, like, how do you think this class should be structured? Another would be evaluating what pieces of literature and film should be considered worthy of study. Again, I gave classic literature, but independent movies, right? Should I have done a classic model? Should we only focus on the classics? Should we focus on independent cinema? What should we do? Again, if you want to expand your character essay, that would be completely legit, right? Analyze the significance and relevance and meaning of a character. Or you could expand what you were talking about in your character essay into basically a theme essay, right? Really talking about the significance, relevance, and meaning of a text, or in this case, film's theme, right? Now, you could also apply what's called a comparative literature approach, right? So, especially Most Dangerous Game, but obviously Dracula and even The Raven, right? It is inspired, these three works have inspired numerous kind of adaptations, appropriations, parodies, right? So, why? Right, especially Dracula, right? Because we could focus on any of these, right, with Dracula, right? If you if you have any kind of love of, Castlevania, either the Netflix cartoon show or the video game, right? You can talk about that, right? So go into it, right? Or we haven't, you could do an entire paper on blaxploitation adaptations. They adapted Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They adapted Frankenstein. They had numerous horror adaptations specifically in blaxploitation genre. And then there's also numerous adaptations of, Western works and all sorts of things, right? So you could do that, right? There's all sorts of things that you could do with comparative kind of literature approach. You could also do explication, right? If you just want to take a passage and really focus it for or a scene, right? I should do that too, and let me actually add that, right? And really do a close reading, right? And really focus in on that. That would be kind of really important to do it. There's an entire journal called the Explicator, and that's all academics do. They just take passages that haven't really been looked at before and really explain why it's so important to the piece of literature, right? Uh, Another thing that we haven't really done too much, but again, it's called biographical criticism, right? You could discuss how an author or director's life inspired the creation of the work. Very popular way of doing research, right? You look at how they framed the setting, the characters, themes, right? Or in this case too, you could look at an actor's life, right? And how it influenced their performance of a character. So if you really, let's say, blaxploitation is new and you never heard of Blackula before, and you're like, okay, who's this actor that played Blackula, right? What's he about, right? You could totally do a really good research-driven essay about his life, right? He's, again, he played the first Black Dracula, and he was super proud of it throughout his entire life. He was super proud of that movie. He had a great career. He had a really prolific career. So you do anything like that, whatever you find interesting. And then the last kind of approach would be historical reception. Again, something that we haven't really talked too much about, just because of time's sake, but another research-driven kind of essay, right? How things change over time, right? How movies were well received, and Raven would be a good example where, Corman, when he was doing Raven, it was really popular, right? That was a popular movie. It made money. His whole Poe series, he made about, I think 6 or 7 different Poe films, right? And so, they were very popular. And today they're still kind of considered, even though they're independent cinema, they're still kind of considered classic film. So, there's a lot of different interesting ideas about what's happening, right? So you can look at the critical reception, the reader appreciation of a film, or audience appreciation of film, right? And how that's changed over time, or has changed over time, and what's meaningful about those changes, right? Now, as I said, if you're going to focus on an explication or like a theme or a character, focus just on like one literature and film pair. You don't want to do numerous works, right? Again, as always in academic settings, papers, essays have singular focus. So you want to have a specific guiding framework, right? If you do, for whatever reason, analyze more than one movie or text. Now, a requirement specifically of the WE program, but also university, is 5 scholarly peer-reviewed sources. So you could use sources you found before with the previous assignments, or use new ones, right? But you have to have at least 5 peer-reviewed sources. And again, this is an important objective, so you have to be careful of that. The research also, again, besides researching the works, you should look at sources that discuss adaptation studies, intertextuality, any pertinent, ideas related to film adaptations of literature. Again, always avoid over-summarizing, avoid from evaluation, right? Remember, too, if you're going to do theme is never one word. It's never a simple phrase. It's a complete idea, so just be careful with that. And again, avoid all those AI generators and all that crap. To, again, write the essay. Use them for templates, but don't let them write the essay. Very similar to the first essay's grading scale, where, again, title is 5, presentation is 10, thesis is 5, focus is 10, topic sense argumentation is 10, flow is 10, organization is 10, detail and analysis 10, 10, and then, of course, peer-reviewed sources 10, right? And they have to be, again, within the last 20 years. And then grammar 5 and format 5. Unlike the other ones, this one, I didn't really want to give you examples because I want you to really kind of create and go with your own kind of approach, because there's so many different ways you could go with this. There's not like a single, character essays are very similar. Synthesis essays are very similar in terms of approach. This one, there's so many different ways you could approach. Use the essays you find as pretty much examples of how to structure the essay, right? So definitely think about just all the different kind of freedoms you have with this essay. Obviously, if you have questions, as always, post to the forums. Post to the discussion board, email me, right? If not, again, I hope you enjoyed this class. Best of luck finishing up the last major assignments, and take care.